And it,
Yeah.
and
See
light.
the
Come on.
see.
Linnea. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are starting our Education Instruction Committee meeting today. And we are just a minute or two late. And until we get our act together, I left my gavel. But so I'm going to just tap on the mic, okay? But first of all, I'd like to ask our clerks, will you please call the roll?
Representative Sapicki, Dixie, Griffey, Harris, Haston, Hicks of Washington, Manis, McKenzie, Parkinson, Reagan, Rudder, Sparks, Warner, Vice Chair Weaver, Chair Lady Moody. Madam Chair Lady, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. And I would like to, so right now I'm going to tap us into order. Education instruction is now called to order. And we have a quorum, so I welcome you again. On our calendar, our marked calendar, we just have two things today. And our first bill that will be coming up is House Bill 0005 by Representative Warner. We have a motion and a second. Representative Warner, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill introduced requires the instruction provided to a student who is identified for intervention through the response to instruction and intervention framework be determined by the student's local education agency based on the individual student's needs. Madam Chair, I'd also like to read something else here into the record.
Yes, go ahead.
This section does not prohibit the State Board of Education from establishing disability standards that outline the appropriate consideration of a student's response to intervention and determining the eligibility for special education services. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, does anyone have any questions for the sponsor? Yes, sir, Mr. Sam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, as I'm reading this, I'm just trying to figure out what exactly does this bill modify or change in terms of its enactment, if and when it's enacted?
Representative.
Madam Chair, if it's okay, I'd like to get my co-sponsor to give a response to that.
Yes, sir. Representative Sapicki, your name's been called.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. To answer your question, Representative, what this bill does is it doesn't replace anything in code at all, but it identifies who is the ultimate responsibility to making sure our kids get educated. And we feel that the locals at the local level understand their children and can choose what's appropriate for them.
Yes, Representative McKenzie.
Thank you for that answer. So I guess what I hear you saying is it's been nebulous in terms of whether it's a state or whether it's a local, whether it's even the principal is what you're saying. Okay, correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other
you, sir.
questions? All right, we have a question on the bill. All those in favor of passing House Bill 0005 onto full committee, say aye. That's right, I am the full committee. I'm still in subcommittee. Okay, wait a minute. I haven't. All right, so see, anybody can do this, really. So anyway, all right, we'll start over. Let's say aye. House, we passed it all, right? House Bill 005, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, seeing none, the House Bill 005 goes to calendar and rules. Thank you, Representative Warner. All right, next up, we have House Resolution 0082 by Chairman Howell. We have a motion and second. Proceed, please, sir.
Thank you, Chair Lady, committee members. It is a high honor for me to sponsor House Joint Resolution 82, which will confirm the appointment of Dr. Linda Cash to the Tennessee Textbook and Instructional Materials Quality Commission for a term that will end on June 30th, 2023. Let me say that I've known Dr. Cash since 2015 when she became the director of schools in Bradley County. And I've brought her list of accomplishments and resume, and it's only about 4 pages long. I'll be glad to read that into the record if you'd like me to, but I don't think it's necessary. When she became director of schools, I was immediately impressed with the way that she approached her job and also with the way that she engaged with the community in Bradley County. I have seen her and observed her to be a strong decision maker, a visionary, a leader, a bridge builder, with a passion for making sure that the students in Bradley County school system get the best education possible. When the Chamber of Commerce and the Industrial Development Board, and I happen to sit on the Executive Council, Economic Council for the Chamber of Commerce, when we began to recognize that our industrial base was growing and we have a new industrial park and we're needing qualified workers, we realized we had a problem finding people to fill those positions. Dr. Cash became immediately engaged in solving the workforce development problem that thankfully we have in Bradley County. It's good to have new economic growth and new industries coming in. But she engaged with that immediately, and her vision then brought Bradley County the Pi Center. Some of you have heard about the Pi Center. You've heard me talk about the Pi Center. The governor's heard both of us talk about the Pi Center. And the partnership of industry and education was her vision. And she convinced, through her strong leadership, convinced the county commission to invest heavily in developing the Pi Center. Governor Lee caught the vision as well, and in a previous budget invested $1 million in seed money in the Pi Center. And when it's complete, I believe it'll be a model for the state of Tennessee and help ensure that every graduating senior in Bradley County has a marketable job skill. And it'll also become, I think, a model for the state. And these kids will become productive tax-paying citizens of the state. And that's, I think, what every school system is looking for, that particular outcome. Dr. Cash is the current superintendent of the year for the Professional Educators Association of Tennessee, who, by the way, strongly endorses her nomination. And Dr. Cash, as I said, is an exceptional individual, and I am blessed to be able to call her my friend, and I urge this committee to pass HJR 82, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Howell, for that explanation. Members, does anyone have any questions? Okay, I saw Representative Sparks first. Representative Sparks?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if we could hear from Ms. Cash.
All right, motion granted. Thank you we're out of session. I'm hammering. Thank you, Dr. Cash, for being here.
You're welcome.
Do any members have any specific questions for Dr. Cash? Yes. Representative Sapicki?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director Cash, thank you for coming today.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes,
So
sir.
Here's my questions to you. Briefly, starting with your college education, can you work us through your college education and then what schools you've taught at that led you to be a director of Bradley County Schools?
Yes. I went to college first in South Carolina, where my bachelor's was, where I had a bachelor's in health and physical education up to my doctorate from Trevecca Nazarene. I've had the privilege of being an elementary, middle and high teacher, as well as an elementary principal. I have been an assistant director of schools, a director of schools, and worked in higher ed as well.
Yes, Representative Sapicki?
Thank you very much for that. Also, being on a textbook commission, as you know, is a very daunting task. We have very, very rigorous and very high expectations of our standards and our textbooks. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, and one of the pieces that I'd like for everyone to know is that this has to be a collaborative effort among everybody, because we're educating the students in Tennessee, and the material we put in front of them is probably the most valuable thing we can do. So not only do we need to be sure that we teach them to read, to write, to understand, and math, but we have to have those high quality materials in front of them, and they have to be thoroughly vetted with the standards in Tennessee. So I feel very obligated to do the right job and to be sure that I'm representing not only the education side, but the values that are placed in Tennessee as well.
Thank you. Representative Sapicki?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Cash, I want to say thank you for coming today. It'll be my pleasure to vote for you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Representative Griffey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Cash, congratulations on your nomination. And I just want to say that all my directors of schools speak very highly of you and say that
Thank
you're more than qualified and you'll do a great job on the board and be a leader in that. So thank you so much for volunteering to serve. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Representative Sparks?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. I wanted to ask, I'm new on education and I made the comment about, so I get frustrated with watching the bickering and the fighting that goes on. And I know that we set some high standards here. And I know Chairman Sapicki and Commissioner Schwinn talks about moving the bar.
Mhm.
I don't want to be here next year and the bar doesn't get moved. I don't want to be here talking about the same old thing. What advice would you give us? We have several freshmen here. I think Representative Warner just passed, maybe his first bill. Congratulations. What advice would you give seasoned lawmakers and freshman lawmakers? How are we going to move that bar where we're not, 34, 38, 45, whatever the different metrics come in on the reading comprehension? That's the one area that I know a lot of us want to try to tackle to move that bar up, what advice would you give us?
Well, there are a couple things. One thing that I would recommend to all of the legislators is to be actively involved in your school systems, to reach out to your directors of schools, to ask, can I go see what's in the classroom? Can I be there to actually talk to teachers? That would be one of my biggest suggestions, is to keep that communication open. My second thing was to recognize that if you've got a student who is, let's say that they're 2 years behind, it takes much more than 1 year to get them to the level of proficiency. So teachers, educators, administrators, directors of schools have to put things in place that allow that time to address those specific students. But we also can't forget that we don't have to accelerate students, so we have to put those in place too. So what I highly suggest is the material that you vet has to be high quality, but we also need to remember that we're scaffolding children. So it's hard to take a child who is 2 or 3 years below and put them right on grade level. So you should be teaching them grade level material with the whole, but then you're breaking up and building those bridges to get them up, which does take more time. It also takes quality instruction, quality material, and quality teachers. So the training that goes in there happens to be well. I would love to tell you you're going to see this big jump, but it typically takes 2 to 3 up to 5 years to see the increment. It should see incremental jumps, but the big jumps, it takes time because you're changing processes and systems. In Tennessee, we've done a great job. I won't say great. Let me take that back. I apologize. We've done a good job with response to intervention, but we've also gotten bogged down in the response to intervention to where we keep doing the same thing over and over. We're not seeing those students move and progress. I appreciate the bill that was just passed. That does give the local level, say, this is not working for this kid, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this. It's the analysis of the benchmark assessments. Where is this kid and what do I have to do? And to give districts the opportunity to have some flexibility with that is huge, but to also hold us accountable for, are you really moving these students? What else do you have in place rather than the typical curriculum? But the base curriculum, and I will always say this, your foundational base curriculum that is taught in the classroom with all of those students, with those kids, has to be strong. If that foundational curriculum is weak, you're not going to move kids, because that's the whole. And then you're moving to pull out, what do I need to accelerate kids? Do I need to bridge them up? But your base curriculum, which is that textbook, has to be the strongest that it can possibly be. And it has to meet the needs that a teacher does need for those kids, so that they're not going to places to pull curriculum that's not suitable.
Yes, Representative Sparks.
Going back on Representative Warner's legislation earlier, when you have a troubled youth, where is the intervention there? Because one of the areas that I'm seeing an uptick in from teachers, from administrators and others, just the other day, higher ed mentioned this, is the mental health areas.
Yes, sir.
Where is that intervention there for that student that may be having home issues, and other little trauma that could be happening? Where is that? What's been your experience with that? And is Tennessee meeting that need?
I would say you have pockets that are meeting it better than others because they have more access to community health. But I will also tell you the person that makes the biggest difference in the life of a child is the teacher in the classroom.
Yeah.
So if those teachers can build that relationship with them and they get to have those one-on-one conversations with the students so they can find what is going on at home, what is happening, and then you go to your counselors. It's still that collaborative effort. And if in the school system, if we cannot manage that, then we need to have those outside agencies in. I know a lot of our school systems use mental health facilities that are already in. We have cooperative agreements with them where they're seeing our children. I think it has to be intentional. I think you have to recognize that there are students that are not coming in from homes that are whole. We just had an incident this week where it's a middle schooler, parents are incarcerated, the aunt has the child doesn't have direction. So you've got to have those scalable pieces in there to lift that student up, but at the same time, not diminishing the education that's happening in the regular classroom. So, and people may truly disagree with me, but I think sometimes those students being out to get the mental health that they need before we can actually pour into them on the educational level. If you're distressed and you've got trauma in your life and someone's trying to teach you about commas, that's not going to work. But if they know, hey, in 15 minutes, I can go see my guidance counselor, then you're going to get more bang for your buck. I think we have a lot of work to do with that. I think that we are moving in the right direction, just to say we recognize it. The trauma-informed work is good work. It's just we've got to figure out the processes and procedures for all districts.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Sorry
you.
if that was too long.
You're doing fine, Dr. Cash. Next on the list, we have Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. And Dr. Cash, thank you for being here, and thank you for meeting with me earlier. My questions are related to some problems that have arisen in relation to the Textbook Commission in the past, and things that have concerned us in the General Assembly. We have had bills that we passed relative to civics education as well as character education, that the needle has not moved, if you will, at least discernibly for us. And the complaints that have come to me personally from several places across the state had to do with the materials that were put out there for them to use in that category. So from the perspective of the Textbook Commission and the approval process, how do you see that being addressed?
Chairman Reagan, are you referring to supplemental material or material that's put out there for the students?
Yes, supplemental material, and for that matter, several parents that I have received input from have expressed complaints over the ineffectiveness, if that's the right word, of civics materials. And frankly, my visits to schools, I've asked students some rather pointed questions about how their government operates, and they were not sufficiently knowledgeable enough to tell me. So civics is one issue, but the character development, which we already have state standards for, I will point out, is another. So how do you see the Textbook Commission addressing textbooks and the supplemental material related to those?
Well, by statute, the Textbook Commission does have groups that review that material that have to be content specific. So that helps because you're working with people who are content specific and taking their expertise while at the same time matching those standards from the Tennessee state standards. So that has to be a marriage. It has to be done well. So you've got to really vet the people who are reviewing that. When you're talking about the civics, one of the pieces that I know, if you add more and more and more that has to be done in the schools. It's more, now add this, now add this, now add this, something else has to go. So in my opinion, if we really want to teach the civics portion correctly, it needs to be embedded in the content that is already being used in the classrooms, not something totally separate. It's fine to have a civics test, but to have in their, we have it broken down before they graduate. They have to have the civics lessons. And I think if I were to be honest with you, that's another thing that people are saying, oh, we need to do this. It's mandated, so we have to do it. But if it were embedded into the content that we're already doing, that in seventh grade, or whichever grade we choose, these are going to be the factors that have to be taught, and they have to be proficient at those, and not just take the test, but have a measurement that says we need to swing back around. I would embed it into the social studies curriculum that already has to be there. That way you're not adding, it's just enriching what is already taught.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Next on our list is Representative Warner. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't read cursive writing. Representative, Chair Lady Weaver.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Linda, Director Ms. Cash, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate what you bring to the table. Your resume is miles long, and I really appreciate you seeing the need for this very important new chapter you're taking, and I am just excited to be able to see the good stuff that's going to happen. Back, I guess it was in 2015, I'm not sure, I was here when we actually put into law the Textbook Commission. And one of the main things, and then one of the reasons why I sit on this committee, is my passion and heart for content. And when I go to my schools and speak with my directors and teachers, that's the conversation I have. What exactly is being taught in the textbooks? Content is king. When you give a child, it's kind of like what my mother used to say, garbage in is garbage out. What you put inside a child will be reflected and will come out of them, because that's what you've sown into them. So the values and the standards we have in Tennessee, my goal on this committee is to make us exceptional. So when people come to Tennessee, they know their children are going to be taught the best content. And if you don't like what we teach in Tennessee, there's 49 other states. You can go check them out. But all that being said is, and to my colleague's point, enriching that content is important. And I know how I know you're great for this job is because you already have that conversation with your teachers and your principals in Bentley County. And we have talked about that. And that communication is important. In fact, we've had conversation where some stinky content has come through and you and your teachers and your principals decided we ain't going to teach that. And I love that about you. So I feel very confident that you will carry that same passion as an appointee on this textbook commission. The one other thing I wanted to ask you is, I also, we have had issues with department and agencies kind of getting out of their sandbox and getting into your sandbox or the textbook commission sandbox. And I just want to, and I know you will do this, but I say this to you and I say this to whoever else gets appointed on this commission, is that you stand your guard and be watchmen on the wall and do not be intimidated by a department to come in and try to take your mission statement away from you. Because I intend to work on that in some legislation that you will not, I want to make sure that no department or any outside force can interfere with the independence of this commission again. And so I know you will guard that. And again, congratulations. And I mean, I guess I'm just being prophetic here. She's already going to go in. So, you know, she's there.
Well, thank you. I will, just to frame that a little bit for reference. I raised 3 boys that I had my thumb on them most of the time. That I hear things they did now that I'm like, how did you do that? I would be watching every move you made. I thought, so from that, being intimidated is not something that is a part of who I am. I was also raised on a farm with my grandparents. So you get the job done. And that's where we stand. And I think the stakes are too high for our students in Tennessee to not do the right thing.
And again, I really appreciate, I know that there's stuff coming down the pike concerning content that I will fight vehemently to not allow it in our classrooms. But again, I really feel that the people we have on this board are going to do their job. And I appreciate you taking a step forward and answering the call. It's an honor to have you. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, members, we don't have anyone else on our list to ask questions, but Dr. Cash, would you like to have any closing questions or comments for us?
Just some closing comments. One, I do feel like this is a privilege, and I take it very seriously that you have appointed me and supported me in this role. As we meet and begin to unravel this, we will, do our very best to be sure that we are following what the state of Tennessee has required us to do. And one is that very definite age-appropriate material and content. I also want to say that it is a privilege for me because I have the opportunity to talk to other people, other districts, other teachers that I can get that kind of input on, and being able to have those advisory groups that we can depend on. That are one requirement is that a teacher be on there. So I think that as we move forward through this, I think it obviously, textbooks are political, but my role is to take that out of it and to look and see what is in the best interest of the students of Tennessee and the teachers of Tennessee. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I believe we're in good hands. All right, members, we're back in session. Oh, I do have it now. Back in session. Any other? We're done with this business. Thank you. We have a question on the bill. So now we will vote on accepting the nomination of Dr. Linda Cash to the Textbook Commission. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. We go to calendar and rules. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope you're clapping 3 years from now.
Thank you, Chair Lady and committee. You've made an excellent decision.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. We appreciate you, Chairman. Well, members, that brings us to a close of the business before us today. Thank you. I hear a motion to adjourn. All in favor? All right, we'll be back next week, same time, same place.